Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Encouraging Playgroup Participation, what works to support the wellbeing of children and parents. My name's Shani Moore. I'm a Senior Research Fellow at the Australian Institute of Family Studies. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Gunai people. I thank them for their care and stewardship of the beautiful lands in West Gippsland, where I'm fortunate to live and work. I also pay my respects to the traditional owners of country throughout Australia, including the various different lands that our panellists are speaking to us from today. We recognise the traditional owners' continuing connection to lands and waters. We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. I'm really excited about today's session. Like many new parents, playgroup was a really important part of my early parenting journey. But before we dive into our session, I have a little bit of housekeeping to cover. So this is our last webinar of 2025, or our last live webinar rather. On behalf of AIFs, thank you to those who've attended our webinars throughout the year. We appreciate your engagement, support, and of course, your work with children and families. There are a couple of weeks left of the on-demand webinar program before our summer season series kicks off. Keep an eye out in your inbox for more information about that. In other news, we are very excited to announce the dates for the 18th Biennial AIFs Conference, which is happening next year from the 9th to the 11th of September in Naarm, Melbourne, at the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. This event will bring together government, practitioners and leading researchers to explore how policies, programs and systems must evolve so that families in all of their diversity can flourish in this rapidly changing world. Abstracts for presentations are opening early in the new year, so keep an eye out on our social media for those release dates. Moving on, this session will be live captioned. Please follow the link in the chat if you require that function. For related readings and resources, please check the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel. And there'll be a short feedback survey that will open at the end of the webinar. We really appreciate your feedback, so please take the time to respond to that survey. And finally, today we're going to be looking at how to encourage participation in playgroups and what works to support child and family wellbeing. Our audience today come from a range of roles across the child and family sector. While we have some playgroup facilitators and people who work in early education joining us today, many of those in our audience also work with children and families in other roles. This is a big topic and we can't cover everything, but we do hope there's something in this session for everyone. That being said, before we jump in, we do want to acknowledge that we've had a few questions come through about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander playgroups and culturally safe playgroup models. This is a big topic. In fact, it's big enough for its own webinar, and it is a conversation that's best led by First Nations voices. There are some powerful examples of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander playgroups out there, and organisations like SNAKE are doing exceptional work in this space. We've included some more information in the handout for those who are interested in this work. So let's begin. I'd like to offer a very warm welcome to our panellists today, Dr. Crystal Alla, Patricia O'Donovan, Jacinda Armstrong and Angela Barwick. I'm not going to go into detail on their bios because we want to spend time on the discussion, but if you'd like to learn more about any of the panellists, their full bios can be found in the handouts tab. I might start with you, Patricia. As the CEO of Playgroups Australia, could you tell us a little bit about the different types of playgroups and their purposes?
Yes, thanks, Shani. I'd just like to start by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation on whose land I'm joining you from today. And thanks for that question. Look, we often talk about playgroups as if they're one thing, but there are actually many different types, each with their own purpose and often delivering differentiated outcomes. So just let me describe some of those differences. A lot of the research that you'll be familiar with, and probably the caseworkers or family support workers listening in as well, would know of supported playgroups. So these types of playgroups are usually service-led. They can look and feel quite different even across the type because they depend on what families need and the playgroup responds to that need. They'll often have a coordinator with specific skills in setting up spaces and activities, and or facilitators that may deliver a structured evidence-based program. But playgroups in Australia actually began with community playgroups model. These are parent-led groups where families come together and create a space that suits their children, their culture, their rhythm, and their local community. They're flexible place-based programs that are generally shaped by the people who attend them. And every week we have tens of thousands of families who participate in community playgroups across the country.
Thanks, Patricia. Angela, you've attended a playgroup with your children, but you also volunteer as a parent leader. Why do you think playgroups are important for families and communities?
I feel that playgroups are really important for families and communities. Simply by the first 5 years in your children's life is probably the most important 5 years of their lives. And it helps build all their social, emotional and physical well-being just by simply attending and meeting new families and the volunteers that run them.
Thank you. It's so beautiful. Crystal, you've recently completed a practice guide for CFCA looking at what supports playgroup participation. Can you tell us a little bit about what you found in your research?
Sure. Thank you, Shani. So we looked at research to see what helps, what hinders families from joining playgroups, and most of the research does focus on supported playgroups, so that's what we know most about. And what we found is interesting. Families who go to playgroups, they really like and value them, but there are fewer attending, for example, supported playgroups now compared to 10 or 15 years ago. So, and there are some clear reasons for that. Based on literature. So you've got a handout that lists these factors that we found and grouped into 4 areas. So just to mention them, there are some reasons such as personal and family circumstances related to playgroup social environment, also facilitator skills and approaches, and also the program facilities and processes. And whether families attend depends on things like what are their past experiences? How welcoming does the playgroup feel that they're attending? How easy is it to access? And also practical things like income, health, transport, and even what families know about playgroups and whether they think they're useful or not, or whether their families think they're useful or not, or their communities. So, for example, you might find some low-income families might struggle with fees, while others face like scheduling issues. For example, do not create a playgroup that is at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. So lots of things to consider here if you want to increase playgroup participation. So just a couple more to mention. Social environment is important. Playgroups that feel inclusive and friendly make families want to come back. And if they're sort of that's not a research term, but vibe or feeling that they get when they attend or when they walk through the door, it's judgmental or cliquey. The communication between people, they do tend not to want to come back. And yes, research does say that. And facilitators also make a big difference. Those who just are approachable, good at building relationships really help. And well-run playgroups if you have consistent routines, fun activities, sort of also strong community links, they tend to keep families engaged. And it's really important. Just supporting playgroup participation means considering or tackling these issues or as much as you can, and just making playgroups as accessible for that particular group of people you want to invite there, and make them inclusive, make them appealing for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. Some really interesting insights there that kind of frame the start of our conversation. Jacinda, Crystal's research focused specifically on supported playgroups. You're the CEO of Playgroup Tasmania. From your perspective, looking across all the different types of playgroups you work with, what are you seeing in terms of family engagement and demand?
Yeah, well, I actually think overall the demand is steady, and in some areas it's increasing. Families are choosing playgroups because they're offering something really grounding for them at a time when many are feeling isolated. As Patricia said, community playgroups continue to be foundational, and they're flexible, they're local, and they are shaped by the families who attend. With supported models, we're also seeing a growing interest, and especially for parents who want a bit more guidance or who are navigating some more complex circumstances in their lives. But really, across all types, families tell us the same thing, and that is that they value spaces that feel safe and welcoming, and that really foster a sense of community, and that make parenting feel just that little bit easier. And I would probably just kind of reiterate that playgroups really do need to feel welcoming. And so Christelle touched on a few points that she's heard through the research around some families' experience is that they're not welcoming, or haven't been quite as welcoming or as inclusive as they would have liked. I think that that's work that can absolutely be done, though, whether it is through working really closely with community playgroup volunteers, or that relationship-based practice through a supported playgroup model, that it is really about how it is that you grow trust in relationships with families. And when you do, they will return and they will have a much more positive experience.
Yeah, the importance of that facilitation role has really come through, I think, already a few times in the conversation. Christelle, what does research say about the role of supportive facilitation in playgroups?
So the research says supportive facilitation in playgroups, in short, it's really critical. So, for example, research and parents say that they really value facilitators who are not just, just knowledgeable, they are friendly also, respectful, sensitive to the needs of families, children and parents both. So people, when they come to playgroups, tell us that they want to feel welcome, they want to feel understood, and it's also about empathy. It's recognizing that different families have different circumstances, different experiences, and creating an environment where everyone feels they belong as much as possible. So skilled and supportive facilitation do, one could say, make playgroups work. And the research does say that facilitators who have strong support in terms of training do better at attracting participants to playgroups. And what is fascinating for me looking at the research is that parents were asking and families were asking for quite a range of mix of technical and social skills. And they were asking, so I would believe that I want to go back and attend a playgroup if the facilitator, for example, is good at managing group dynamics, if they have good communication skills, if they're good at resolving conflicts, and the communication is also especially important in cultural and linguistically diverse settings. So we're demanding, based on research, quite a lot from the facilitators. So we want them to understand child development, understand how to link to community services, and be knowledgeable in referral pathways, because that means that they can just offer a more holistic support. Because there is a variety of families, parents and children who come to playgroups with a different set of needs. So yes, so just in a nutshell, looks like investing in training and just building communication skills and cultural competence, and also understanding how to link playgroups with local organizations is important for facilitators to know about.
It's certainly a very important but complex facilitation task. Patricia, playgroups offer so many opportunities for children and families to grow together. From your perspective, how does playgroup participation support children's development and also nurture things like parent wellbeing, confidence, learning, those sorts of things?
Thanks, Shani. Look, I would like to support all the statements that Christelle's just made about the vibe in playgroups. It's really important, and facilitators and volunteers alike need to have those skills to nurture relationships, to mentor other people into a skills-based relationship model as well in playgroups. But to just answer your question specifically, one of the things that we absolutely love about playgroups is that they're very simple, welcoming spaces that deliver really powerful impacts for both children, parents, and in general families. For children, the developmental benefits are huge across the whole spectrum of development. And our research shows that children who participate in playgroups are 1.4 times as likely to be developmentally on track when they start school. And that's an effect size right up there with preschool participation. So it is a very high impact program for children. The benefits don't stop with the children. Parents and carers get just as much out of it. The playgroup itself can be a huge boost for parental wellbeing. Being around other families who understand the ups and downs of raising children in these very early years can change or lift that sense of isolation and help parents feel more grounded and supported by each other in this really informal, non-professional way. They do a wonderful job. So playgroups do a really wonderful job of growing parent confidence. When parents see their child trying new things, or they pick up ideas from other families and facilitators, the parents themselves recognise their own strengths, the strengths that they already have, and start to build on that. There's so much gentle peer-to-peer learning that happens within a playgroup, and the parents often take those moments of learning home and build on them within the home environment. So all of this supports the parent-child relationship. And when parents feel more confident and connected and relaxed, it creates a lovely foundation for the strong, secure bonds that continue right throughout a child's life. Thanks, Shani.
Well, I think I experienced all of those benefits from my own playgroup experience, Patricia. Angela, I'm interested to hear from you about what you got out of your playgroup experience and how being part of a playgroup supported you in your role as a parent.
Pretty much exactly as Patricia just said, like it was a whole lifeline for me. So coming out of my comfort zone and bringing my eldest son to playgroup for the first time was quite daunting. And then I walked in and there was nice familiar faces and a beautiful set up building, and my child just got to come in and explore, and I got to unwind with parents that know exactly the struggles that you face as a parent and know that I wasn't alone in this journey with all the development and behaviours that you deal with throughout your child's life.
You wear a different hat as well, and you're also here as a playgroup leader, as a parent playgroup leader. So you've seen, I'm sure, a lot of families come through playgroup. What are some of the ways you've seen children and parents benefit from being involved as well?
A lot of it is like the parents coming in and seeing the familiar faces and the regular volunteers and the Playgroup Tasmania staff that come out and welcome everybody and say hello and get to know us. Like everyone knows myself and my boys by their name and greet us with a great big smile every time we come in for a different playgroup. We've attended like 2 or 3 different playgroups every week since my eldest was like 9 months old, and I'm still coming through with my 19-month-old now, so even with my big boy at school.
It's a long journey. We've heard about the benefits of playgroups now from, I think, all of our speakers. I'm interested in understanding how we also measure the impact from a monitoring and evaluation perspective. I am an evaluator ultimately. Jacinda, can you talk to us about what measuring impact and outcomes looks like for playgroups? It can be a bit tricky.
Well, it can, but most importantly, impact measurement, it must be meaningful, practical, and actually useful. So we have an outcomes framework that names up the things that we're trying to influence, which is, confidence, connection, child and family wellbeing, and safe environments. And this is for both community and playgroups and our targeted playgroup programs. And to understand whether these things are happening, we actually really use simple tools. So attendance and session mapping helps us to understand participation trends, reach, and where families are actually engaging. A few times a year, we'll do short family check-ins through surveys and ask questions around that confidence and connection and how they feel their child is going. The facilitator and volunteer reflections are linked to our quality framework, and this gives us really good insights into what good practice looks like on the ground. And children's voices. So we also engage with children through various activities to really understand and listen to what they can tell us about their preferences and their boundaries and what feels safe for them. In addition to those pieces of work that are linked in with our own outcomes framework, we also look at broader community data like the AEDC to understand what families might be experiencing around them in their local communities. And all of this helps us to build a picture of how playgroups are actually contributing to stronger families and safer, more connected communities.
Sounds like you're applying a few different strategies there to try and get a really holistic view of what those benefits are and how those impacts are playing out. I'm just going to change tact a little bit now. Unsurprisingly, we talk a lot at AIFs about families. We talk a lot about what families are and how families have evolved over time. Patricia, I'm really curious as to whether you can talk a little bit about how playgroups have evolved from some of the more traditional models to meet the modern needs of changing families.
Yes, look, as I spoke before, they have been changing and transforming over many, many years. But one of the most amazing things about playgroups is that they've always been very adaptive, and it is the very organic quality of them that enables them to survive and thrive within communities. There's very little curation goes on around playgroups. They morph and change according to the need, the social impacts and the community expectations. So a traditional playgroup model might look like it's very simple on the surface, with families coming together with their children to play, interact, learn, but that simplicity is exactly what makes them flexible and able to evolve. There's a reason that community playgroup has been around in Australia for more than 50 years, and it's because of their natural ability to respond to community needs, because they become what families make of them. So the families who participate in them really create them. Community playgroups in particular are very place-based. They grow out of the interests, cultures, routines and needs of the families who come together to create them. Because they're not rigid, they shift and change as the communities shift. So I like to think of playgroups really as shapeshifters within their communities, responding to whatever the community needs are or the community throws at them at the time. So look, as families have changed, playgroups have changed right along with them, not by abandoning the traditional model, but because the model that they are, or that loosely designed is the way I describe them, they are loosely designed to bend, shift and change and grow with the people who conceive them, establish them, support them and facilitate them. So they always will be able to respond to changing needs of families because of those very distinct features that they have.
I love that imagery of the shapeshifter, the metaphor there. Jacinda, do you have anything to add to what Patricia said?
Well, I think Patricia actually summed that up really nicely. I don't actually have much more to contribute to that. Agree. The responsiveness is actually the biggest strength of the model, and playgroups are not fixed programs. they adapt to who turns up and to what the community needs might look like. So, you know, we see there are new groups that pop up that might be, you know, grandparents group, dads groups, multicultural or language-based groups. We know families are juggling more, and the flexibility of playgroup means that they can just tap in and out depending on what life actually looks like that week.
We can just extend that conversation around the kind of adaptability a little bit. We've had a lot of questions come through from the audience about how best to support neurodivergent children or neurodivergent parents with playgroup participation. I wonder if you can tell us about the work you're doing at Playgroup Tasmania around playgroup and inclusion and accessibility.
Yeah, inclusion is a really big focus for us. We work really closely with families and sector partners to understand what helps neurodivergent children and parents feel safe and supported. With this understanding, we also really work closely with all of our playgroups, whether that be community playgroups with parents and volunteers, or, you know, our more targeted programs, to really grow their knowledge and understanding of what inclusive practice looks like and what safe and welcoming spaces should look like. And this includes, you know, creating sensory aware environments and using visual prompts so that families and children know what to expect. Giving families choice and predictable routines, but also having quieter areas available without needing to ask. Use strengths-based neurodiversity affirming approaches and really give families the permission to participate in whatever way works for them and their family.
Thanks for that. Perhaps for any audience members who might be working with families where one or more of those family members is neurodivergent, what do you think is important for them to know about playgroups?
I think it's actually pretty simple in that playgroups, we don't expect families to fit a certain mould. You know, playgroups really at their heart are relationship based, and like I said before, they're not program or kind of curriculum driven, which means they can easily adapt to what a parent or child needs that day. And, you know, neurodivergent families often tell us the relief that they feel walking into a space where their child and themselves are understood and they don't have to explain away any behaviours.
Angela, what's been your experience with families where one or more of those family members is neurodivergent? Are there any approaches that you've observed to be particularly helpful?
We have quite a few families that attend our playgroups that have children on the spectrum of some degree. And we've found that each week it just varies. So some weeks they'll come in and they'll be okay with the overstimulation and the noise and everything that's going on at playgroup. And other weeks they might need like a little quiet space set up. So we always try and like a little quiet area. A favourite is a little teepee in the corner with pillows and books and little fidget toys for them, just to go and have a moment by themselves and regroup, ready to come back out into the playgroup environment.
I think we all need a little teepee sometimes, don't we? Just thinking about inclusivity from a different perspective, Crystal, can you tell us a little bit about what role cultural norms and shared values play in creating inclusive spaces?
Yes, the social and cultural environment, it really matters. And just like Jacinta was talking about, playgroups being relationship-based, and Patricia was also mentioning how participants really do create them. So research shows that the values, attitudes, norms within playgroup, they do strongly influence whether families attend and what kind of an experience they have when they come there. And it's not about everybody thinking the same way or agreeing on a topic. It's really about curiosity, respect, how we handle differences when they come up. And we know from research that inclusive playgroups, what that actually means is you do create a space for families from different backgrounds to feel safe and valued. And that might be, for example, by offering cultural culturally appropriate activities where appropriate, using different materials that reflect diversity, training facilitators in cultural safety, and also providing information in different languages where needed. So it is important for everybody, and to be respectful of cultural norms, and of course, but there are certain cultures or families from certain cultures, like for example from some migrant backgrounds and some from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds, for whom, for example, building trust takes time. Relationships can be more of a focus, and if we don't approach people in culturally respectful ways, then they will not. Some of it is really common sense, and research notes to this. It's people will not feel cared for or respected, and sometimes that can be as simple as going beyond that usual simple "how are you," but really being ready for a deeper conversation. So in a nutshell, it's also about being respect, being open, being supportive, making people who participate feel that they belong, and reducing any feelings of exclusion and judgments. And sometimes it's really helpful to connect the participants with other local organizations if they have cultural migrant backgrounds, engage them, tap them into community networks, and just maybe participate or organize some events that really celebrate cultural diversity in playgroups where you have different families from different backgrounds. So it's really about just making everyone welcome, and inclusivity and cultural norms, they are important.
And those sound like a really useful set of principles that would apply to kind of good relational and kind of good quality practice in almost any setting. I might go to you next, Patricia. There's been a lot of discussion lately about how we can create environments where children are safe and supported and able to thrive. From your perspective, what role can playgroups play in nurturing children's safety and their overall well-being?
Look, I think playgroups have a really important role here, and yes, child safety is one of the big ticket items on everyone's agenda at the moment. Look, one of the things that I always come back to is that playgroups support children's safety and well-being in practical, everyday ways. A lot of people think that safety is just about soft fall under climbing equipment and, good supervision, perhaps something like that, but it's actually so much broader than that. Child safety is really about strong relationships, tuned in adults, a shared sense of what helps children feel secure and ready to explore. In playgroups, you actually see lots of anchoring behaviours where children look back and are so strongly connected to their parents and caregivers that they feel safe and secure around playing there. And that in turn contributes to good developmental outcomes. The second part of this really is that it's an opportunity to educate parents. Playgroups are a space where parents will often discuss what are your next steps with your child, what do you think you're going to be doing next with your child, and often early education and care comes into that. And playgroups are often a nice place for parents to discuss what they're actually looking for. They come to an understanding of what a child-safe environment looks like, what good supervision looks like, what good ratios, if your child's going out of your own care, can be. So these are topics that can be discussed among parents. They highlight those sorts of issues with each other and will often say, well, I saw this, did you see that? They share that information and they build their knowledge around those sorts of things. Playgroups naturally create the conditions for these sorts of discussions. They're such an approachable platform for raising awareness and providing this sort of education. Often some of our playgroup organisations will provide a guest speaker or partner with a local service to provide some additional education or information about things. And other times it's just the everyday modelling of safe, respectful interactions in warm, familiar settings where families already feel at ease. And those messages tend to land in a way in a playgroup that is accessible and meaningful for parents, for children, and then the outcome is this sort of relaxed, knowledgeable space where people understand what, you know, what a safe environment looks like. And once you've got a nice, safe environment, of course, we have everybody flourishing in the area of wellbeing.
Thank you. Jacinda, a big part of children's wellbeing is making sure they feel heard and respected. How can playgroups create spaces where children's voices, choices and their cues genuinely guide what happens?
Yeah, so this is an ongoing, I guess, priority for Playgroup Tasmania, and you know, that kind of celebration of children's rights. Children communicate in all sorts of ways, even without words. You know, so what they move towards, what they avoid, or how quickly they might settle into a space. And for us, it's really about slowing down enough to notice those cues rather than adding any layer of complexity. This year, as part of our child-safe, child-friendly playgroups work, we spent time sitting with children and asking them, you know, what safety feels like for them, and using Play-Doh, crayons, and just simple conversations. They told us it's really about people who show up and routines that they can count on, friends to play with, and grown-ups who listen. So, you know, when we talk about children's voices, we're not necessarily talking about a big formal process. It's a small everyday thing, like offering simple choices about what or where to play and letting children really take the lead, keeping their environment from feeling overwhelming, and, you know, as we've kind of mentioned, having that quiet space available if somebody needs a break. And really checking in with children through play or eye contact and not just words. So when we're taking our cues from children rather than directing everything, they will naturally influence the flow of what happens at playgroup.
I think with your answer there, you've actually really nicely preempted one of the questions that came through from our audience around some practical strategies for engaging with children to collect information from them in a more general setting as well. So hopefully that satisfies that questioner as well. Angela, when you walk into a playgroup, what are the little signs that you notice that tell you it's a place where children's wellbeing is really front and centre? What do you see happening in those contexts that shows you that children are being listened to and supported?
So when I first walk in, it's like home. So I walk in and it just looks familiar. My children know where everything is. They can see experiences set up from previous conversations that they've had with volunteers, myself included. So it's like, we'll go in and it's like, okay, what do you feel like playing with today? And then we'll get out the trains or we'll get out some painting, and then like someone will do something and it'll do a whole different experience from those things. So it's like, okay, well, next week we'll set up this because that's what they've done with it this week. I guess, yeah, like that children's voices is everything. Like we would always do like themes for our playgroup as well, so that the parents knew, like, if we were going to focus on animals or something that day, that they could dress their children up as animals or in animal clothes, or and just sort of get them to feel more welcome by having all of that set up.
It sounds like some beautiful examples there, but also the importance again of the vibe in kind of really encouraging that sense of safety and connection and support and well-being. We've got to the point of our session today now where we're going to jump into some of the questions from our audience. So we've had a few questions come through about running dads playgroups or playgroups for fathers. Jacinda, we might start with you. Do you have anything that you can tell us about playgroups for fathers or people in that fathering role?
Yeah, so dads or father figures groups do tend to work best when they are built around real life. So weekends, after work, outdoors, or linked to activities that dads already enjoy with their kids. In our experience, they often need a little extra nurturing to kind of get going. And, you know, having a male facilitator or volunteer involved really does make a noticeable difference. We've had success partnering with like Bunnings to run hands-on projects. So simple woodwork activities, you know, kind of making something together. You know, those practical shared tasks, I think, help dads connect without feeling like they have to make small talk. Also, just tapping into what dads or, you know, male figures naturally gravitate towards. Trucks were a big hit in one of our groups, so the local fire station brought a fire truck along, and it instantly just created an easy way for the dads there to chat and connect.
Like fun. Fire trucks are always a hit, aren't they? Patricia, do you have anything to add to that?
I suppose the only thing I'd add is that probably the dads were so busy chatting to the firemen that the kids were able to crawl all over the truck without supervision, but possibly that didn't happen. So look, I think we do know a lot about dads' playgroups, and the specific things that come to mind as Jacinda mentioned, they can't make a standard weekday session. They have to be arranged around the times that a working dad has available, if those are the people who are coming. Some dads just come, if they're the main primary caregiver, they will just come to a normal community-based playgroup or supported playgroup and just join in, because all the playgroups are welcoming and inclusive of everybody. But if we're trying to tap into the main working parent, and that happens to be the father, we know that those playgroups need to happen at a convenient time. They need to generally happen at the same time each week. A facilitator often is sort of the key to the success of those playgroups, because they can arrange things, they can listen to interests and arrange things for those things to happen. They really tend to like a show up and play style of playgroup, where it's the things are there on tap for them. And look, the main barrier for dads playgroups, or the main barriers, it's not a lack of interest. We've found it's often the resourcing, because the facilitators need to be sourced. After hours or weekend rates for venues are expensive. Everything adds to the cost of those sorts of things, and they are costs that a community playgroup doesn't usually carry. So we have to allocate some additional funding and resources to those playgroups, but we see them as critically important in building family relationships and including everyone in those very early years of child rearing, which can often be challenging, but also bring lots of you know, beautiful benefits to families as well.
Indeed. Angela, I'm wondering if, with your playgroup facilitator hat on, if you've got anything that you would add to that.
I feel that we have quite a few dads come to our playgroups, and yeah, they definitely like that more rough and tumble sort of boy play, so balls and trucks and getting a bit more testosterone out into the environment, compared to the mums, which is a nice spin on our playgroups. Like, there's a lot of little children that may not have a father figure, and when there's other dads there interacting, it just brings out the best in all of them.
Thank you. I'll stick with you, actually, because we've had another question asking for practical ideas for building relationships quickly and keeping parents engaged. Do you have any practical tips or strategies that you're able to share?
I think it's more about making sure that the parents feel really welcome. So getting to know every person that comes to your playgroup by their name, their children's names, and just like really take an interest in their personal life outside of it, so that they feel like they're welcome to come in and offload anything that's happened throughout the week that they need to get off their chest. And do it in a safe environment where they've got experiences for the children set up, so that the children can be busy and playing and having fun while mum or dad gets their stresses off their chest.
I'm gonna stick with you, not to keep you in the spotlight, but I think I have another question for you. Sort of to build on that, how do you then encourage positive interactions between parents where there might be disagreements around issues such as neurodivergence, or maybe where some cliques form between different parents? How do you kind of manage that situation in that group setting?
That's a tricky question sometimes. Most of the time we would try and maybe just kindly remind the parent that may have an issue with something, that like everyone is welcome to come to playgroup and everyone should feel safe and supported while here, and just to try and remember that not everybody fits in the same box.
Cindy, do you have anything to add to that? I saw you nodding.
I just love the way that Ange just framed that. Playgroup really is for everybody, and you know, it is often difficult when there's different personalities, and we know that in any social setting, regardless of whether it's a playgroup or whether it's a work environment. And the ways in which we can, I guess, ensure that everybody feels genuinely, I guess, trusted and respected is just making sure that people feel seen. Remembering people's names, noticing their child's interest. Warmth and consistency matter, so make sure, when somebody new is coming along to your playgroup, acknowledge that, notice them, remember their name, ask their name and remember it. And, I think that's just really important for playgroups, that we just keep things relaxed, so parents, families can feel that they can show up, however they might be feeling that day.
So building on this idea of kind of how we might manage the dynamics of relationships, do you have any tips or ideas? And this is probably a question for you, Jacinda or Angela. I'm imagining you've got some great experience here as well, but kind of tips or ideas for balancing the structure of a playgroup. So how you might kind of plan the activities throughout the session, and then offer kind of different strategies for how people might either integrate those activities or provide space for kind of different ideas or conversations or resources to be happening kind of in parallel.
So I'll jump in first, and then I'll let Ange go because she's got more, I guess, volunteer practical experience. But we provide our playgroups with essentially what is a framework. And there are tools, there are ideas, there are resources, and then the playgroups are able to adapt those and to implement those tools when and where they think that the families will most easily respond to them, I guess. I think it's really important to reiterate that while playgroups are flexible, they can run to a general structure. There's a greeting, there's a craft activity, there's, just before it's time for the playgroup to wrap up, there might be a quiet story time, and that symbolises or signals that the playgroup is about to finish up. Or, what we found is super popular is the bubble machine and a bubble song, which kind of indicates that playgroup time's up. So it it can have a general structure, but we really do make sure that whatever that might look like at the playgroup on the day is really driven by the families and the interests there. We just provide the framework or the guidebook as to how they might be able to engage with families and keep children interested.
Thank you. Any tips from your perspective, Angela?
So yeah, very close to what Jacinta has said. Just taking in like the children's voices and taking their lead. So in our play group, we would run like a theme. So one week we'd do ocean animals, and then the next week we'd do emergency vehicles and things like that. The week that we had the emergency vehicles come in, we actually would have like the police and a fire truck come in so that the children could look through the fire truck and pull out the fire hose and have a little turn of the hose and press the alarm on the police car to make it have its siren going and the lights flashing, and just really gets the children involved in setting out the themes for the following weeks. And Jacinta nailed it on the head with the children absolutely love bubble time at the end of our playgroup, and they know that as soon as the song comes on that it's outside for bubbles and everything starts getting packed up, and once the bubbles are finished it's goodbye, and they've got that familiar routine happening.
I think I'm yet to meet a child that does not love bubbles. They're the universal love language, I think. We've got time for only, I think, one more, maybe two more questions. Crystal, I'm going to throw it to you, and then I think I'll come to you, Patricia. Are you able to give us some sense from your insights out of the research about what some of the challenges playgroups might currently be facing? So thinking about things like more demand for services, volunteers, inclusive practices, what that might look like?
Well, I think that's probably a better question for our playgroup experts rather than research, but challenges. There's a few things, I suppose. I think just off the top of my head, lots of people through research tell us that they are not actually aware that there is a playgroup happening in their neighborhood, and a playgroup that or a type that they would be interested in attending. And I think from what I have noticed is that the information necessarily doesn't get to the right people always, or doesn't get reach them in the right ways, or whatever ways that most suit them. And I've noticed this from my experience with some migrant-related backgrounds, is that you have one playgroup who likes to communicate through Messenger, another playgroup whose parents like to communicate through WhatsApp, and then there's a third one who just does emails. And some of them are really, really good, for example, with just creating their Facebook page. And I understand it's really hard to just know who your audience necessarily is, or how to reach them the best way, without actually going there and asking them, or asking a selection of your target group. That's at least what research does tell us is useful. So I think awareness is one of the things that I have noticed, because getting the parents and the children to the playgroup seems to be, from what I see in research, the hardest bit. Once you already got them there, they seem to really enjoy and love that. Yeah.
Patricia, do you have anything to add around the challenges or the barriers that might be preventing people from being able to access playgroup, and how we might start to address some of those?
Oh, look, I think the how we might address them is very difficult, but some of the things that I've noticed around this, and I've been really involved with playgroups for many, many years now, but basically I see parents as families being very time poor, and this gets back to the curated time around their children. They like to have the time specifically to do something, to achieve something. So, you know, swimming lessons, for example, would take precedence over a playgroup. Both are absolutely essential for children, I think, but if they're time poor, they will sacrifice the socialisation of a playgroup, which can benefit both them and their children. They'll sacrifice that and do something else. So I see the curation of both parent time and children's time as a really big issue that we are concerned about, but we also see that it contributes to stress and anxiety within families that we hope playgroups can mitigate in some way, shape or form. Other family pressures will always come into playgroup attendance, whether there is a cost of living issue, and not necessarily because a playgroup is expensive, because most of them are very, very affordable, and many of them are free, but other issues of like getting there. So in some states public transport is very expensive, and perhaps other areas we've got the impact of heat and you know, often the weather, but it's certainly heat. Playgroups are often used as heat refuges across Australia in very isolated communities. But to get to a playgroup in an area where there's heat and issues with heat, often they don't have shelters, bus shelters for you to wait in and catch you out in the blazing sun. So we know there are those sorts of things. We also know, again, I'd like to refer back to Crystal's comment around called families, or families where English is spoken as a second language. We know that playgroups is their soft entry point into almost every early childhood and school journey, and they have acknowledged this themselves. They often say, without playgroups, I wouldn't have known where to go, what to do. I grew my network from there, and I learnt everything from there. So getting the word out into those communities is really, really important, because playgroups contribute, enrich their lives in ways that we don't necessarily plan for, but happen really organically. And so how we can address some of those issues is an ongoing problem, but often it's timing, scheduling of the playgroups, responding to the weather challenges, which are often unexpected, and making sure that we keep costs low and supports for families included in what we're doing. So those are the most immediate things that come to my mind.
Thank you, Patricia. And I think that's a wonderful place for us to end the webinar at this point. I'd like to offer a huge thank you to our presenters. This has been a really interesting discussion, and we really appreciate you contributing to this webinar. I'd also like to extend a really big thank you to our audience. We really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy days to participate in these webinars, and we hope you got something useful out of the session today, as we hope for all sessions. And also thank our AIFs Communications and the Child and Family Evidence and Evaluations team, who do all of the back-end work to make these webinars happen. I'd like to remind you all to subscribe to the AIFs newsletter to be notified about the recording if you're not already a subscriber. We'd also love to hear from you via the feedback survey. Your feedback's really important in how we continue to deliver these webinars, and so we're very grateful for those survey responses. We look forward to seeing you next year. Our live webinar program will be kicking off again in February. In the meantime, please check out our on-demand webinar program over the summer, and keep an eye out for the rest of that summer series over the break. I'd like to wish you all a wonderful holiday season, and take care, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.